Hello and welcome to 18 WJTS-Inform. This is what we're going to call the squash edition of Inform. Joining us in the studio is Jan Dougan. Jan is the extension educator for Du Bois County. It's always a pleasure to have her come in and talk about different things to do with food and healthy eating. Jan, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Bill. And it's always so much fun to come and share with our viewers information that we have available from the Du Bois County Extension Office and from Purdue Extension. And it's just our effort to try to help people understand how they can eat healthier and live longer.
And some things are just really simple to do. And it's just a matter of changing our habits of what we've done in the past. A lot of people are meat and potatoes. That's what they have to have. But we're trying to get people to try different things. And so many different things are now available all the time, all year round.
That's true. And nutrition science is a really young science. And we keep learning how we can prepare foods healthier, what foods are better for us to eat. And a lot of times I hear from people, well, you used to tell us this and now you're telling us that. And that's because as we age and as we grow and as we learn more about foods, we understand more how that works in our bodies. And how people live today is different than how they used to live. So, there's a number of changes, and we just want to help people understand that it's really important to take yourself off automatic pilot and just people keep doing the same thing they've always done. They're always going to get the same results, right? Right. So if we want to be healthier, we have to think about how we're eating and what we're eating so that we can be healthier, and whether that's to help manage a chronic disease we have, or maybe to lose a few pounds, or maybe just to actually feel better and to have more energy. So there really is a mind-body connection, and what we put on our plate and what we put in our mouth really impacts our health and well-being.
And today we're going to talk about squash. And squash is normally a fall vegetable.
True.
But really, grocery stores seem to have items that are spring, winter, fall, summer, all year round. So squash is available at pretty well any time. But you have a basket of things we've talked about before: eggplant, sweet potatoes, and the greens. But let's talk about squash.
Sure, and fall is the time of the year when we think about squash, but like you said, it's available year-round. And one of the things that I hear from individuals is, well, I don't eat that because I don't know how to fix it.
Right.
So, we have a lot of information available from Purdue Extension here in Du Bois County to help people know how to fix something, whether that's how to prepare it for a family meal, how to preserve it, how to freeze it, how to process it, can it. So if people are wanting that information, that is readily available from Purdue Extension or from the internet. You have to realize that when you go to the internet and some of the information that you get, anyone can post anything on the internet. So it may not be reliable research-based information, but it depends upon what you're looking for. If you're looking for a recipe, there are blogs that people have recipes on. All the cooking shows on television, there's information of their recipes on there. Purdue Extension has recipes available. So there's a lot of ways to prepare squash, and we just want to share a few really easy things today with your viewers.
Well, that's the one thing. We've talked about this before, and I thought, really, it's easy. It's just simple. It doesn't even take a whole lot of work to make squash the right way.
Right. And we want to make family meals easy. We want to make meals for seniors easy, because, when you think about seniors who may be living alone, or maybe there's only two of them living together and preparing meals, and they've used to prepare meals for a huge family, and now they're preparing only for themselves, and they think, well, I can't do that. It doesn't taste the same. Well, squash is a great vegetable to prepare for one or two. This little jewel right here, this is a spaghetti squash that we have in here. We want to look for squash that's a nice color. We want to look for one that doesn't have any cracks or dents or signs of distress on it. And we want to pick squash by weight. So if we look at a squash and we go, wow, that should feel heavy in our hand, that means it's a good squash. So spaghetti squash, for those viewers that don't know, when you open it up and you take a fork and put that into the flesh of the spaghetti squash, it'll string and it looks like spaghetti, and that's how it's got its name. So this is great to fix. You can actually fix spaghetti squash in the microwave. if I would take this spaghetti squash and I would wash it first and use a vegetable brush on it to clean it for food safety purposes, we want to get any of the dirt off of it, and then I would take maybe an ice pick or a fork or a knife to put some holes in the spaghetti squash. And then I'm going to put it in the microwave, and one this size I would probably cook for about 5 minutes in the microwave on high, and then I would turn the spaghetti squash over and cook it for another 5 minutes. Then I would take it out of the microwave and I would just let it sit on the counter for about another 5 minutes, and in 15 minutes this squash is ready to cut open and to shred. Take the seeds out and then shred it. You can use it like spaghetti, so you can serve it with pasta sauce on it, or if you would prefer, just a little bit of olive oil on it and some seasonings, whether that's a hot seasoning you want to put on it, or your favorite herb that you want to put on it, or if you've got some herbs growing out in the garden to cut those and serve it with, that's great. You can even put a little brown sugar on it if you want a sweeter, a little brown sugar and a little olive oil. That makes for a great side dish. Okay, so you can use it as a main dish or a side dish. The other squash we have here, do you know what this one is?
That's a butternut.
This one?
No, maybe not.
That's acorn.
Oh, acorn squash.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
an acorn squash. And
This is the butternut.
that's correct.
Okay, all right,
That's
all
the
right.
butternut. So again, we want to look for, one that has a hard flesh and no signs of distress. We want to wash it before we prepare it. Again, one of my favorite ways to do this is to go ahead and cut it open, put it flesh side down on a pan with a little water in the pan, and steam it in the oven. And so you would have to do that probably for about 30, 40 minutes, depending upon the size.
This seems small to me for
Yeah.
the acorn squash.
Yeah,
Okay.
that is a small one, but just a perfect size for a senior.
Sure.
But
Well, why did you look at me and say for a senior? How did you said cut it in half?
Yeah.
So am I cutting it this way or am I cutting it this way?
I would cut it this way.
Okay, down.
Okay.
Okay.
Cut it right through the stem and
straight
cut it
down.
down.
Okay.
Or on the side of the stem and cut it down. You'll want to take the seeds out of it before you turn it upside down and put it in the oven. That's
Okay.
just one way to do that. But acorn squash is then serve it with a little bit of, maybe just a tad bit of butter. That's great. Or maybe you want to put some cranberry sauce in it and serve it like that. That would be a great way to serve that. Butternut squash, probably my favorite squash this time of the year.
It's something that I think you can make a lot of different things with butternut squash, more than other squash, and I don't know why I think that.
Well, I love the flavor of a butternut squash. We take this out of the
Sure.
basket because I think the one thing people say about this is it's really hard to prepare a butternut squash. So I just want to share this tip. So after we've washed this butternut squash, what I do is I cut the end off and I cut the stem end off.
Okay.
Then I set it upright on my cutting board, and I have really good sharp knives. We want to keep our knives sharp in our kitchen because we'll have less cuts if we use sharp knives. Because what
You haven't been
happens-
around me very much with a knife. I'm not real good with sharp knives.
Well, what happens is when our knife is dull, we have to push harder. So if we push into our flesh, we're pushing really hard, so it's going to go through our flesh. But a sharp knife works really easily, and we don't have to push as hard. So if you hit your flesh, chances are you're not going to be pushing really hard, and it's not going to go in. So anyway, keep your knife sharp. Cut down through this squash then lay it open,
Okay.
and then take the seeds out. And then if you want to, peel the outside off, cut it into squares, and roasting is my favorite way to do butternut squash. So I toss it in a little bit of olive oil or canola oil, again, the heart-healthy oils. I put it on a cookie sheet in my oven or in a broiler pan. I stick it in a 425-degree oven, and I just roast it until all those, and turn it occasionally until all those sides of the squash are brown. Delicious.
Then just eat it like that. Put something else.
It's great to eat it like that. The other thing is, then if you have any leftovers and chill it, it's actually very good on leafy greens. Cold butternut squash, leafy greens, walnuts, and cranberries for a salad. So you can have
Wow.
a vegetable on your salad. Very tasty.
The very fall kind of a salad too.
Yeah, and pretty. We've got the orange and the red and the green. You know, we eat with our eyes, so really when we make food look good, we're more likely to eat it and enjoy it. So.
Now, okay, forgive me for asking what may be a dumb question, and please, viewers, forgive me too. Can you eat it raw? You really don't? I
don't care for butternut squash raw.
Okay, any kind of squash you really don't eat raw, do you?
You can. I mean, zucchini you can eat raw, but I personally just don't care for the taste.
Okay.
When we roast a vegetable like this, it sort of caramelizes it. It brings the sugars out. So, you know, that's one complaint from people about vegetables. When I ask, why don't you eat vegetables? Well, they're not sweet enough. Well, then we can make them sweeter the way we prepare them. So that brings the sugar out of the vegetable and it really tastes yummy.
Okay, and that makes sense.
Yeah. So then those leftover butternut squash, you could also serve that in the morning with eggs. You know, as it's kind of like we serve potatoes with eggs, only we're going to serve a vegetable. We're going to serve butternut squash with our eggs. So that's another way you can do that. Butternut squash soup. I mean, that's a process, but I mean, you can do it. Same with pumpkin. I mean, pumpkins are great. You need to be sure that you're buying the right variety of pumpkin for consumption. So, but that's a great thing to do too.
And usually the pumpkins for consumption are smaller.
Right.
More dense.
Right.
And they're usually labeled for people like me that may not know the difference.
Sure. And you know, that's the beauty of the produce. If we buy it in our local grocery stores, most of them have some kind of tagging on them or information on it, says what they are, where they came from, and how to fix it. So those directions are right there on the produce for people if they'll look for that.
But you know, it's really pretty simple. You just basically put it in the oven and roast it or bake it.
Right.
And eat it.
Right.
Yeah.
Very good to do. So my last squash that I have there is one that's probably fairly new to a lot of people. I've shown this to some folks and they really don't know what it is. I really actually just learned about this squash last year, and it's called a Delicata Squash. It's very much like a butternut squash on the inside, so it has an orange coloring. It's very flavorful. I usually wash these. If you feel the skin on this, it's not really quite as tough as this skin, you think?
Okay, no, right.
Okay.
Oh yeah, that's, yeah.
So this, I actually leave the skin on. I wash it, leave the skin on. I slice it into moon pieces, I call them. So
half a moon?
So I wash it, I cut it in half vertically, take out any seeds, lay it on the cutting board, chop, 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 chop in little moons, and then I roast that, and that's absolutely delicious.
And then you just leave the peeling.
Yeah.
Just kind of take a fork and go and just roast it with whatever you'd like on the top.
Right.
And sometimes experimenting with different flavorings, you're not really changing the way you cook it or anything, you're just changing what you put on it.
Right.
You know, some people might like brown sugar, some might like a Cajun sauce.
Yeah.
Or a spice.
Yeah, so if you like those seasonings, then you can try something like that. I mean, that's what makes cooking fun. You know, it's an adventure. I mean, people should really try to think about how to make it fun and how to experiment and create some new things that their families will enjoy or that they personally will enjoy.
So when you go to the farmer's market or you go to your local produce section, find something different and try something different.
Yeah, that's what we want to encourage. And if you're not sure about it, give us a call at the Purdue Extension office and I'll be glad to talk to you about it or show you some resources or share a recipe with you. Whatever, just try to think about eating more fruits and vegetables.
Add squash to your diet. All right, Jan, thank you very much for coming in.
Okay.
Learned a lot again, and hopefully you came up with a recipe, although we didn't really give a specific recipe. Come up with your own. Try some different spices or different oils, I guess, too. Like, you know,
Sure.
We just recently started using a lot of olive oil. And olive oil really has a nice flavor, but canola is another great way to go with that.
Yeah.
All right, Jan, thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you.
Add vegetables to your diet. Half the plate should be fruits and vegetables. Jan Dougan, our Extension Educator for Du Bois County, has been our guest, and we thank you for watching WJTS Inform. We're local people watching local people.